Yeah.
So let's just jump right in with the fact that you and I are now sitting together, because that in and of itself is a weird thing. What has happened in the country that we're now part of this kind of deviant conversation from the mainstream that seems to be growing in audience size?
Well, you and I are both part of this wing of the media where we're having long-form conversations that, on podcasts and on YouTube videos where we're reaching a surprisingly large audience. And because of the format, we're not put in these weird rhetorical boxes where we have to struggle to make the other guy look bad in the 45 seconds remaining, on CNN or wherever it is. And so we really can unpack an argument, and we can search for the possibility of convergence in real time together. And so it's, you might not notice the difference if you're listening to this in any 30-second bit of conversation, but over the course of an hour or 2 hours, you notice that you're hearing a conversation that you're not hearing elsewhere. And so and you and I we don't agree, as you say, about many things, but we're in the same media channel, and we're approaching these conversations in a similar spirit of just being willing to put our thoughts on the line and based on a principle of charity, engage with the best version in our opponents.
I think that's really important, because, as you say, when you're spend your life in cable news, it's always finding the worst version of the argument and then bashing it with the club until it's dead like a baby seal on the ice. But it's really interesting because the intellectual dark web, which is a coined term by our friend Eric Weinstein, at your podcast, where we were doing a taping of your podcast in San Francisco, and that, of course, was a conversation between three people who disagree on a wide variety of topics. What do you think sort of characterizes this? Because it's become really controversial, the term itself. There's been a lot of backlash to even the idea that there is an intellectual dark web. Does it exist? If so, what are the sort of common factors you think that unify the widely disparate viewpoints therein?
Well, I think it's what I just mentioned, the fact that these conversations are happening in the dark with respect to the mainstream media. I don't think most people at the New York Times or on CNN understand how big your audience is, or how big Joe Rogan's audience is, or my audience is. Just the numbers would surprise them, and the fact that people are listening with that level of engagement would surprise them. And ideological commitments aside, or beliefs aside, we're having conversations that are not really yet on the radar of the mainstream media, and yet we have analogous large audiences. And again, it's a spirit of intellectual honesty and adventure where we're not stuck simply trying to win points. You and I will debate many topics, and I think I'm right, you think you're right, and it will have the character of a debate. But in reality, as hard-hitting as any of those exchanges could ever be, I'm not approaching it the way you approach a formal debate. It's more fun. I mean, you get to turn it over and look under the other side of the rock and look at these viewpoints all the way through.